for coming. So yeah, we have a smaller group today, which is great. So today we're going to be talking about turning your community into investment. So we have Tim Martinez, right over there. Give it up for Tim. So Reed wasn't able to make it, unfortunately, but that's all right. We still have a good session to go over. You know, like the fundamentals of community investments. Is that a right fit for you? Things of that nature. Before we get into that, I want to say thank you to our community partners, so Basis for Secure IT, Metro Nashville, and then also thank you to our growth partners. We have Baker Donaldson for legal, for banking, CLA for accounting, Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce for community, and then RJ Young for tech. Also, thank you to our supporting partners. We're reading all of those off, but we can't do what we do without all our partners. Also, Launch Tennessee. Do you all know of Launch Tennessee? Yeah, I think if you all went to the last event, the elevator pitch, you also gave me give a little bit about information about that. So they specialize in things like capital, commercialization, and also connections. So they're a really good resource because they're kind of like the center web for the different entrepreneur centers in Tennessee. So if you want to get more involved with what they have going on, learn more about the connections or the commercializations that they do, highly recommend scanning that QR code, learning more. InvestTN. So everything that we do for these sessions are about capital. InvestTN, powered by Launch Tennessee, has their own investments that they do for not middle Tennessee founders, Tennessee founders in general. So they do it for early stage startups and also venture funds in Tennessee. So if you're looking for an equity investment, this may be a good fit for you. Scan that QR code, learn more about what InvestTN is, the qualifications, and see if you're eligible for those. All right, without further ado, I want to give it up for Tim. He's going to take over. Everybody give it up for Tim one more time.
Well, we got a series of questions to run through, so let me just pull them up. I guess by show of hands, who here is planning a crowdfund? No one? Okay. Okay.
I would say I'd like to explore on crowdfunding.
Okay, cool. Well, I can give you a little bit of my background before we get into this. My name's Tim. All I've ever done is build, start, grow, and sell companies. I've been doing it since I was about 15. The kid with the lemonade stand, had a skate shop, I was a DJ, I had a PR firm, I built and sold apps. I mean, just a hustler, just a straight up hustler. I mean, that's all I've ever done. I somehow fell into the world of management consulting and investment banking about 20-something years ago. I have an agency called Digital Niche Agency. We started it 14 years ago, and we specialize in crowdfunding. So we'll talk a little bit about what's called equity crowdfunding. There's a lot of terms for it, community crowdfunding. That's all we do. We've probably managed about 600 campaigns to date. I don't know how many millions we've raised, so we have a pretty good formula for how it gets done. But beyond raising capital through crowdfunding or through the agency, I've personally overseen the development of maybe 1,000 business plans and pitch decks. I used to oversee a team of analysts that was in a room about this big, and every week there was about 10 to 15 business plans and pitch decks on every analyst's desk, and we had about 10 analysts. So part of what we're talking about today in terms of what makes a good pitch deck, what makes a good business plan, if there's a financial model to see it, a business plan to see, I've seen it, a pitch deck to hear, I've heard it. I used to, as an analyst myself in banking early on, I would call family offices, high net worth individuals, angels, and make thousands of phone calls and try to earn my way every 20 seconds. This is what we talked about, like every 20 seconds bought me the next 20 seconds. So if it's in the arena of building a business, raising capital, doing the pitch deck, I've seen it. So I'm here to pour into all of you and just answer whatever questions you have and be a resource. These days, I spend most of my time on the farthest end. I work with legacy business owners that are running $50 to $200 million companies, and they want to sell. They're looking for succession. They're looking for business transformation, whole other universe. However, I only mention that because when you start a business, at some point in time, the goal is to get to where these guys are at, where they have all of their families working, they have hundreds of employees and making millions of dollars, and they're buying other companies like you. or they're selling their companies, exit events, and things of that nature. That's how everybody gets very wealthy. So I've been fortunate enough to live across the spectrum of all these businesses. And again, I'm just here to answer whatever questions. Now, we can talk a little bit about crowdfunding and just what it is. The term community round is, I guess, in vogue right now. All it really means is finding people out there that have an affinity for what you're into and attracting them to invest into your deal. So the fundamentals of crowdfunding is, let's say you're starting a new line of guitars and we go to people that like guitars and we want to raise $1 million. We're trying to get $1,000 from 1,000 people. It's $1 million. That's it. That's all there is to know about crowdfunding. Maybe a little more, but more or less, the average investment is about $1,500. So if we can get 1,000 of those people to give us $1,500, we raise 1.5. And if we can run some Facebook ads, Instagram ads to get them to say, yeah, I'll learn a little bit more. They go to our page, they check out our video, they're interested. We just keep bringing them down the rabbit trail. We invite them to a webinar, give them some materials to read, and hopefully they just pull out their credit card, go to a place like Wefunder, if you've heard of them, or Start Engine. These are the big crowdfund platforms, and they just make investments. Most people have heard of Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Those are usually crowdfunding for creative projects like a film, an album, a widget, you know, an electric scooter or something like that. What we do on our end is, my goodness, we see so many different industries. Like I was speaking to a guy who's starting a mining project in Montana. I could just go down the list of all the crazy stuff that we see. So another mining project in South Africa last week, working with an aerospace company, someone that does modular homes. There's nothing that we don't see in the crowdfunding, and every day people are raising capital. However, 50% of the people that go to raise capital this way don't raise $1. Why is that? Who are these people? Only 10% of the people that go to raise the capital, the $1 million, actually raise it. The median, if you take all of them and aggregate it, is about 330,000 raised for an average $1 million campaign. Who are the people that don't raise $1? They're the obvious ones, the ones that you would look at and say, no one's gonna give them money. I wouldn't. CBD lollipops. It's like, it's a cool idea. I just don't know how we're gonna make millions and millions of dollars. The ones that that raise serious capital are the ones that you would imagine do. They're the ones that have something very enticing and appealing and they know how to talk about it. I will say we don't have a crystal ball, and things that we thought wasn't gonna work do work, and vice versa. So we just like fundamentals, good fundraising fundamentals. It's like, you know, any sport, you just gotta get your basics and fundamentals, you'll be good enough. So why raise a community round? Well, there's limited options when you raise capital. Let's say you have a business plan or a pitch deck. What are you gonna do? Take it to 4 or 5 wealthy people and hope? That's cool. That happens. It happens all the time. I've been in rooms where people have shaken hands for $1 million deal. It doesn't happen all the time. But what's cool about the community is you're not relying on 3 people. We can go out to thousands of people on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, name it. We have millions of people, right? We just keep talking to people. And all we need is $1,000, maybe even less than that, just a couple $100 for your investment. So it's a very cool way to raise capital. I won't bore you, but about 12 years ago, there was something called the Jobs Act during the Obama administration, and allowed companies to raise capital from everyday retail investors. Basically, you can legally raise money from your mom, and we can promote it online. Before that, as a banker, you had to be licensed, a lot of red tape. The Jobs Act basically dropped that whole red tape, and anyone can just go raise capital from anybody nowadays, and they've made it very, very easy to do so. So for that reason, I'd say do a community round. When should founders consider to do a community? When you have a community. If you don't have a community, you launch a community round, it's not gonna work so well. If you have 3 people that you're talking to, okay, but can we get 300 or 3,000 or 30,000 people in your network? Just think about like maybe a 10%, a 5 to 10% spread of people that are in your community that are highly engaged, that are actually gonna invest. So if you had 1,000 people that are on your newsletter, they follow your Instagram or whatever, and 10% of those are gonna give you $1,000, well, there's $100,000 for your business. Is that exciting? Do you need $1 million, $2 million, $5 million? I don't know what you need, but build a community first. Cultivate them, care about them, they'll care about you. You won't have a bunch of names on your cap table. So what this basically is, people get scared. They say, well, what if I get, 1,000 investors? Do I have to answer to 1,000 investors? And the answer is no. There's something called a special purpose vehicle, SPV. And companies like Wefunder and Start Engine are one person. They represent one person, and they manage all the investors for you.
Wow.
Yes, so you don't have, you could do it on your own. You don't have to use an SPV. I just don't know why anyone would want to do that. And you can communicate with them on a quarterly basis or annual, however you want to communicate with them. What happens if your company sinks and you're not able to pay anybody a return? Well, that's what investors do, is they take risks, and sometimes they lose. And if you win, then you can pay them dividends whenever you want. Should founders not do a community round? Yeah, if you don't have a community and if you don't have a budget. So crowdfunding is not cheap. We estimate anywhere between 10 to 20% for the cost of capital. You want to raise $1 million, you're going to need about 100 to 200, maybe. If you have a highly engaged audience, that number goes down. If you have pre-existing data, or you have email lists, or you have synergistic partnerships, or you have other sources to pull capital in, that 10 to 20% can go down and down and down and down. But, you know, it costs money to run ads. It costs money to have an agency support you. You can do all these things on your own, by the way. You don't have to hire an agency to run your ads. You don't have to hire an agency to do all your content. You can just do it on your own, right? Our agency is set up in a way that we're the framework for you. If you need someone, we're here for you. But I would so much prefer you did it on your own, because it's just going to feel better. You know, it's going to feel like it's closer to you. This is a very personal experience when you do this type of crowdfunding. So you can't just call it in. Some of the best examples, successful campaigns. You know, I don't like the best examples. I hate the best examples because they're irrelevant, right? It's like, yeah, there was this company that raised, $5 million from friends and family, then they went and raised 50 million. It's like, who cares? I'll give you a real example. There's a vegan burger joint called Plant Burger, and they got stuck at like $150,000, and the CEO needed to get to about $650,000. And they were just stuck. They had launched their campaign. They did what they were going to do. They sent their email to everybody. That was it, 150. And he's like, I got to get like another $500,000 because they were opening up another location in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And we came in and we just did real basic stuff. We went down to their location, Manhattan, promoted an event, did a webinar, did all the social media, and we got them about an extra $500,000. Think a little less than $500,000. So we were successful, right? What can a smart, savvy CEO do with $500,000 who actually needs it? He can do a lot. So I think what happens a lot of times is everyone says, well, I need 5 million. It's like, you don't need 5 million. I mean, again, this is coming from a guy who's raised a lot of capital and done a lot of things. When someone tells me they need $5 million for their project, I'm thinking, what can you do with $500,000? I've started a lot of businesses with nothing, so I know what you can do with $500,000. You can do a lot. You just got to be really, really scrappy. So the best examples are when someone raised a few $100,000 and then they actually went and did something with it. And then they went and raised another couple $100,000 and actually did something with it. And by that time, yeah, raising $1 million, $2 million, $5 million is no problem because you have proof. You can show people, look what we did with $300,000. Imagine you gave us $3 million. Oh my gosh, imagine you gave us $30 million. Right? You just got to show people that you can do things. But if we're always in this rush to do things so fast. So that would be my caution, is slow and steady wins the race, minimum viable investment, minimum viable audience. Like, think small to go big. Don't try to go eat the elephant all at once. How is the investment landscape changing? Well, if I had a machine right here that says this turns water into gold, does it matter what the investment landscape is? Literally, if I had a machine that turned water into gold, you'd be like, sign me up. Who cares about a recession? Here's my $100,000 or $1 million. Like, turns water into gold. So we have trouble, especially, we're talking micro, by the way. You shouldn't even be worried about the investment landscape. That's not your problem. Your problem is not that. I mean, if we're talking VCs pouring in all the private equity money that's locked up, the $1 trillion of dry powder that hasn't moved in years, that's a big problem. That's not your problem because you're not trying to raise $100 million for some massive project. You're trying to raise $500,000, and you're going to get that from friends and family. Yes, sentiment is real. Economy, economic pressure, recession, housing prices, just add to the list. Things are expensive. But if someone believes in what you're doing, and they believe in you, and they believe in the project, they believe in the ability to get money, the money will magically appear. You just have to create a pathway for the money to come to you. But if they're scratching their head and they're saying, I don't get it. Tell me more. I still don't get it. Yeah, it's not resonating with me. Well, then you're dead. You're dead in the water. So you got to know who you're talking to and make sure that whoever you're communicating with, like, your message is just landing, because I'm not going to try to fund a golf project to a guy who's like an avid basketball player. It's like, I'd rather just sell him a basketball product, because why waste all the time, right? We're going to speak a certain language. We're going to understand each other. It's that kind of thing, but just at a much larger level. So that's me blazing through all these how to raise capital from the community questions. Is there anything I can answer? Sure.
I'm actually curious, so if through the SPV, somebody does get like a sizable enough investment that they are like over 2% of your company, if you do like a C Corp and do like stock issuance, how would that work in concept, I guess?
Is that an actual issue that you've done with them?
No, but I've just seen it, like I used to do startup
Yeah.
accounting, so. This is just a hypothetical, I'm just.
Well, I would probably disclose dilution up front and just like say, well, I'm not giving you priority shares or common stock. I mean, you can play around with a lot of that too.
Yeah.
So no one ever really moves into control position.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
If you somehow get somebody in like one of these crowdfunding sources, get enough that they're like in a 2%, like enough that they have to be a reported position, what do you do? Are they reported separate from the SPV on the cap table?
I see.
Yeah, I think common non-voting rights, like that kind of thing. Or limited control.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Other questions? We're just talking about stock classification. So when you sell stock in your company, there's different types of classification of stock. If I sold you preferred shares, it might mean that you have the ability to vote on corporate decisions. Startups don't want that. I don't want you voting on corporate decisions. I need to like follow my own sword. So unless you're going to fund 100% of the deal and you're like, no, I'm only putting my money in if I can vote on decisions. So
I asked the nerdiest possible question.
yeah, it's a very nerdy question. I love it. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Any other questions around crowdfunding that I can clear up? Okay. My objective largely is to help you pitch better. I assume everyone here has an idea that they want to pitch to somebody at some time. So, we could just play some games, you can hear some pitches, could give some feedback, and hopefully you can incorporate that feedback to make your pitch better and stronger. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does anybody have a pitch?